Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Choose UCalgary podcast. If you're new here, my name is Aidyn, and I am the Season 4 host for the Choose UCalgary podcast. I'm a current undergraduate student here at the University of Calgary. I'm in the Haskayne School of Business, and I'm in the co-op program. So I'm currently working in the recruitment department at the University of Calgary as a digital student recruitment ambassador. So that's a little bit about me. So welcome. And I am joined here with two very special guests today, Michael and Austin, for today's episode that I'm super excited to talk about. We're going to be talking about the Calgary Indigenous STEAM Students Association and a bit about their experiences just as University of Calgary students, what else they're involved with, and they're basically just going to give us an overview of their experience so that you guys can learn more. So thank you both so much for being guests on the podcast today. And if you guys just want to introduce yourselves a little bit more, that'd be awesome. So maybe Michael, we can start with you.
Sure. So my name's Michael Francis. I'm in my final year of engineering, going to my final year, and I identify as an Indigenous Canadian, but also Chinese. My father is from Kakiwistaha First Nation in Saskatchewan. My mom is Chinese.
Nice. And how about you, Austin?
Yeah, hi. Thanks. My name's Austin. I'm just finished my fourth year of a dual degree program. So my first degree is in mechanical engineering. My second is in commerce, which is still general right now. I also belong to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. And similar to Michael, I'm a vice president on the Calgary Students CISSA, the Calgary Indigenous STEAM Students Association. And my role is VP sponsorship, while Michael's is VP events.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was like, what is the order of this club name again? So from now on, we can just stick to calling it CISSA. But yeah, it is the Calgary Indigenous STEAM Students Association for anyone who still needs clarification on that.
There's an acronym. There's an acronym within the acronym. STEAM is for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So it's a mouthful. We just stick with CISSA. CISSA is easier to say.
For sure. Yeah, it's a double acronym. So yeah, that's great. Thanks for introducing yourselves. So I guess we can just jump right into it. So what made you both apply to the University of Calgary and made you interested in studying here?
Well, for me, my sister went to school here for engineering, and we've lived all over Western Canada, but being here in Calgary for most of my life, it kind of just made sense to stick here and go to school here. So plus I love math and science and technology and everything about that. So
Yes, I grew up in Chestermere, which is just 5 minutes outside Calgary, and just kind of generic story as well. I grew up in high school. I really liked science and math. I had some teachers that I looked up to, and they kind of pushed me in the direction of engineering. And here I am. I did my first year engineering at UC, and then after my first year, I joined the double major program, just with no real thought. Just decided to tack it on for the fun of it, and here we are.
So what was the whole application process like for both of you?
Well, for me, it was pretty smooth. I mean, I did have to go back to upgrade some courses after I graduated high school, but that only took me another year. And after that, it was pretty smooth to get into school.
Yeah, same here. I think I applied very beginning of grade 12, and remember there was a section there when applying, because I know you can apply separately if you're Indigenous, and they have a little bit different standards. So I did apply through that, and I just had my Métis number that I inputted in that, and I got early acceptance, but it's very smooth, like Michael said.
That's good. So yeah, very smooth process, and you seem to have heard back relatively fast. So that's great. And yeah, with upgrading, that's always a great option too. I know at the university we have continuing education and we do offer upgrading as well.
It's never too late to upgrade. Like my first year engineering, one of my close friends, he was 30 years old. He was on Team Canada ski team for 10 years. When he finished that, he decided to do some upgrading at the university and then got into engineering. So it's never too late to go to post-secondary.
100%, I agree. Now that you guys have kind of been in your programs for a little bit and you've really gotten to know your faculties and what interests you, what other ways have you become involved with school and outside of your classes? Like, have you taken on any extracurriculars? I know we've talked about CISSA, so maybe you can jump into that a bit, but if there's anything else as well that you wanted to talk about over your experience so far, then you can share that.
Yeah, well, actually, there's a lot of different student clubs on campus. I was part of one that, quote unquote, helped tutor students with their first year classes. There's also some innovation competitions that I've been a part of, and then most recently, it was CISSA, Indigenous Students Club.
Nice. So how did you decide to get involved with CISSA, and maybe you could expand on your role a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually met the president in a lab group, and we started to talk and realized that we were both Indigenous students, and that's basically how I learned about this. I'm in charge of planning events for this upcoming year. I think a big one of recent is Orange Shirt Day and all these orange shirts on Canada Day. So yeah, I think we think it's really important that we do continue education on something like that. So I'm in charge of planning events.
It sounds like a lot of fun. And how about yourself, Austin?
So I haven't really been part of too many other clubs other than CISSA. The CISSA is pretty much my only club experience on campus, but basically our club has kind of three main pillars. Our first pillar is to promote Indigenous engagement in STEAM fields. Primary membership right now is engineering. That's where the bulk of our membership is. The second pillar that we have is to kind of promote and create an Indigenous community on campus to connect people. Little side story, Michael and I were actually in a lab group second year, had no clue that either of us were Indigenous. We kind of met there and then we parted paths and then we met back up for this club, which is a pretty interesting path to take. So basically our aim is to, promote that community on clubs. So we don't have to say like, oh, you were Indigenous, and we meet again like that. And then the third pillar is to promote professional development. And that's where I come in with my role. So I'm VP sponsorship. So I'm kind of the main contact between industry sponsors, interest from industry and CISSA. So an event that I planned last semester, which was extremely challenging given that everything's virtual, was an industry night. We didn't do a regular industry night where, you come around with your resume, talk to employers, because obviously that's not possible on Zoom. But we had instead 3 speakers come in and talk about their career paths. So we had one Indigenous guy from Nutrien. He was an engineer, specifically in EIT, kind of talked about his experience graduating from obviously engineering and then going into an EIT program or engineering training program at Nutrien and what that kind of looks like. The second speaker we had was a VP of Indigenous Relations at Stantec, and he was from the Sucker Creek First Nations, and he kind of talked about the challenges he's faced in the workforce and how to overcome that. And then the third speaker we had was from a orthotics clinic, and she talked us kind of through what her daily work schedule looks like. She kind of told us that just because you're in engineering doesn't mean you have to do engineering when you graduate. She went down a completely different path. So that's my role, is to kind of facilitate opportunities like that for our club and our membership.
That's really cool. That sounds like it's a really good opportunity for students to get a little insight of what things could be like after graduation, or learn more about different career paths, and even just meet other Indigenous people out in the workforce as well. It's a really great opportunity. So it's really awesome that you guys do that. So what would your favorite part of CISSA be for each of you, unless it is the events?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of the events. Like I'm just really happy that there are other Indigenous students on campus that want to get involved with each other and want to make these differences and want to support each other. And I want to help build these support systems. So
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record, but yeah, my probably favorite thing on campus would be CISSA as well. Not even that we're a groundbreaking club, because there are other Indigenous clubs, but we're the first kind of STEAM-focused club. So kind of establishing a club that's going to hopefully last for years to come after we graduate is something exciting. There was one other thing that I was really excited about on campus and my student experience was last year before the pandemic, because I'm part of that dual degree program, a bunch of the students, I think there was about 20 of us that got to go travel to Barcelona, Spain as an experiential learning trip that was sponsored by the school. And, that's not something I would have done on my own. So was really happy that I got the opportunity to do that through the school.
I think I knew a few people that went on that, and they all said it was so awesome. I think it was over reading break.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is like an experiential learning kind of trip? Do you take a class, or how does that work?
It's kind of like a learning integrated trip. So there's no formal classes or exams or anything like that. There's an application process. You had to write kind of an essay and go through a selection process because, they can't take everyone. There's a certain budget. But once you got accepted, it was, like you said, over the reading week, we'd go there. I think we left on Saturday night, and it was a long flight. But you get there and every day your day's planned out. So we do, in the morning, we'd visit 2 companies, hear from what these companies do, how, we can be involved as graduates or even students, co-op opportunities. Pretty much Monday through Friday, we just attended company meetings, went sightseeing, learned a little bit about the history. And then the weekend, we kind of had we had some time to do whatever we wanted. So we did some like cooking classes, we did boat tours, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of, it's fun learning. It's not structured exam essay writing. It's fun, practical learning.
Hey, exams are fun.
Yeah.
No, that sounds like a really like once in a lifetime experience and opportunity. So would you say, I guess one of my next questions was going to be, what is your favorite part of your program itself? Would you say like that would maybe be it, or?
That would definitely be it for me. Like you said, they don't come up very often. Like they went in 2020, in February, it was Barcelona. 2 years prior, they went to London and they got to see, the London Stock Exchange and all that kind of stuff, which was very interesting. And then hopefully I'll still be around for the next trip and I could maybe go again. We'll see. But for me, that would be one of my favorite memories on campus at UCalgary.
And how about yourself, Michael?
For me, yeah, it is that like experiential learning. I've actually been a part of 3 innovation competitions in the past few years. And the first one, we didn't win anything, but it was a great experience. It actually helped me to develop what my undergrad thesis was. And then my team actually won 3rd place in the COVID Care Innovation Challenge last year. And then we won 1st place in NeuroNexus 2020, where we were helping solve these neuroscience problems. And those were just really good opportunities to apply my learning and to use my learning in real ways. Like that's not even part of class, and just to build something, right?
Totally. It's really cool to be able to apply your knowledge in other scenarios. And then you look back and you're like, wow, I really like did that. And it's just such a cool experience. And I'm sure it's a great way to build your teamwork skills, working in a group of people and collaborating. Well, I find that the University of Calgary has a lot of opportunity for collaboration. And I think that's a really key skill that a lot of people walk out of here with. That's really
Totally.
nice. Have you followed us on Instagram yet? There, you will see us posting about program details, clubs, and student experiences and opportunities, all for prospective students to find out more information. So be sure to follow us at choose.ucalgary on Instagram or by clicking the link in the episode notes. So bringing it back to Indigenous students, do you guys know of any other ways that they can be supported? I know that there is the Writing Symbols Lodge. Have you experienced that? If you've gone there, what was it like?
Yeah, I was there. I think during orientation week, my first year, I was introduced to the Writing Symbols Lodge, and it's really great. So it's staffed. I can't remember the exact time it's staffed, but I think it's like 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. or regular working hours. But for Indigenous students, you can sign up or enroll so that you can get access to that after hours. It beats the lunch rush of Mac Hall or the search for a table. You can just head up there and there's, a little common area with a bunch of tables. There's computers up there and a fridge to stick your lunch, microwave. So that's another thing, you don't have to wait in line for the microwaves. It's just a nice little area, and it's just in a great central location that, it's not out of anyone's way. I have definitely taken advantage of the Writing Symbols Lodge.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like it's very convenient and it just has everything that you need. I guess another question, if there was something or someone that has had a major impact so far on your University of Calgary experience, what would it be?
That would be the Dean of Engineering for me, Dr. Rosehart. At the end of my first year, I actually suffered a traumatic brain injury. I was struck by a car crossing the street on my way to school, actually. And as I was recovering, the dean came to visit me in the hospital and said that I had the school's support if I wanted to return. And really, that was the only chance I needed. I returned to school, and I was doing very well. I am doing well because of Dr. Rosehart's compassion for me. So.
Wow, that's amazing to hear. You must feel so just supported and accomplished, and that's really good to hear. Of course, that you're okay, but that you're able to just be fully back and studying again. So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the university does have good supports. You just have to ask for it, right? And yeah,
sure.
they've been very good for that.
Yeah, there is so much support here, whether it's a program advisor, your peers, anything you really need, there's always going to be someone to support you and help you. And that's another thing that I've definitely realized here, that everyone's just willing to help because they want to see you succeed and they want you to achieve great things. And how about you, Austin?
I don't think there's any one person in particular. There's been many people that have helped me out, but primarily if there was one entity, it would probably be the Writing Symbols Lodge. Like my first year, post-secondary can be intimidating, especially for myself. I graduated with the same 60 people I went to kindergarten with. So university was a big change and intimidating. Nevertheless, through the Writing Symbols Lodge, I remember seeing or getting an email actually saying, a bunch of industry people are coming to the Writing Symbols Lodge looking for Indigenous summer students. And, I wasn't very confident in myself. Like, oh, what would they want a first year engineering student for? But, I went, and that's how I got my first intern or my first co-op experience with an industry company. That is a big confidence boost. That's how I kind of secured my first co-op work term after my first year. And I went back after my second year to the same company. And then also through the Writing Symbols Lodge, specifically, this would be a separate entity, but the Indigenous career specialist, she was the one that kind of helped me secure my internship right now. So like I said, I don't think there's just one person that's helped me, but definitely the connections I've made through the Writing Symbols Lodge.
That's great. You're really able to get opportunities coming your way and build those connections through that.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have known those opportunities existed.
Yeah, it's great that there is that support there. And kind of like what you said, Michael, the support is all around you. You just have to look for it and ask for it and just like put your mind to it and you'll go far. So that's awesome.
I didn't do an internship per se, but I did do some undergrad research, and that was probably the best thing for me. It taught me how to be an academic, I guess, and how to apply my learning, how to think, and how to work to address these problems. So
definitely. Did you want to maybe talk a little bit about what your research was?
Yeah, it was an online platform for stroke care. I don't know about how much more I can talk about it though. It's to help healthcare systems plan their stroke care systems. So that's what I know I can say.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that there's so many different forms of research, especially at the University of Calgary alone. We are one of the top universities for research in North America, which is really cool. So every time I hear someone say that they're involved with research, I'm always like, oh, tell me more, because it's so exciting. All right, so I feel like we're almost coming to an end here. So I guess I do this to all my podcast guests just because I love to see what people would say. But if you could give one last piece of advice to any future student who is interested in attending the University of Calgary or any Indigenous student who is considering UCalgary, what would you want them to know? What would you want to tell them?
This is actually a really good school. We're world leaders in many fields, in many ways, not just like scientifically or anything, but also socially. We're world leaders here. So, yeah,
I agree with Michael. Maybe to add a little bit to that, and Michael put it the right way. Like we are world leaders in many aspects, and the diversity and inclusion. I'm starting to see it more and more that there's a push from it, especially from leaders, such as deans, associate deans. There is improvement, which I'm happy to see.
For sure. We're always improving and learning. So I think that's the best thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing everything. I really, really enjoyed chatting with you and learning more about your experiences and listening to your stories and just learning more about your club as well, CISSA. I will have everything linked in the episode notes so that all of our listeners can check your website out. I'll leave your Instagram as well. Is there anything else that you wanted me to maybe include for them to check out?
As long as it's attached to our Instagram, all of our links are there. So that'll link to our website, to our LinkedIn, to our Facebook page. Basically, all you need is one social media handle and you've got all of them.
I know, right? Technology these days.
Yeah.
And if they had any questions for either of you, would it be best to email CISSA or do you check DMs?
We can do whatever they're comfortable with. Like I said, especially for prospective students, it can be intimidating to email, a club directly. So yeah, feel free.
Well, I will definitely leave all of that linked down below, and I'll leave everything that we chatted about linked as well, such as resources like the Writing Symbols Lodge, just everything that we discussed today. Head down to the episode notes to check that out. And if anyone has any questions for me as well, you can just shoot me a DM on the Choose UCalgary Instagram or the University of Calgary Future Students Facebook page. I'm always responding to messages on there, so anything at all, feel free to reach out. And thank you guys again so much for being guests on the podcast. Always happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great talk.
Yeah, thanks for having us.